today. Don't buy into the fear. Now here's Kimberly Gogan with the Office of the Guardian. Hi, Kim. How are you?
Doing well. What a day.
What a day. I hear we've got lots of news to get to in today's report.
Happy Ides of March.
Is it? It reminds me of like Julius Caesar and, knives.
Well, there was a lot of things that happened today. So we're going to get a little bit of a history lesson on today's news. And we're going to tell you why the deep state is patiently awaiting an alien arrival.
Of course, again.
I know. But, this is actually really good information for us to get a better understanding of what actually happened on this day.
Okay.
And why they were waiting for it. So it's been exactly 1 year today that the Emerald Order Covenant expired a year early.
Okay.
Now, that's just because of a natural progression of things as the cleaning had gone on and all the things that had happened by that point. We could actually expire it early so that we could continue the cleanup process.
Good. Okay.
However, exactly 250,000 years ago today, one of the largest wars that ever happened on Earth ended. Okay. Now let's talk about the war first. And this way we can kind of understand sort of how we got here and why the deep state thought that something special was going to happen today. So around 250,000 years ago, plus about a century, there was a war here on Earth. Now, at the time, we had 5 human tribes on Earth, and the population of Earth was around 8 billion people, almost as it is today.
Right.
The war was not necessarily between humans. The war here was actually between 5 different groups of people. Now, at the time of this war, for quite a long time, about 200,000 years before the war, the Red Queen, which we've talked about before, which was the lower astral being, was actually the ruler of Earth, the sole ruler of Earth for 200,000 years. Remember, we're still in the Dark Ages, even though we go back that far.
Right.
We could call her the anti-Pleiadian queen. And Earth, of course, was in the Dark Age and ruled by darkness, so therefore we had a dark queen. About 250,000 years ago today, the anti-Pleiadian queen officially lost her crown. And Earth was divided between 5 different beings. So the ownership of Earth split up 5 different ways so that each group had a different territory. Mm-hmm. So the war went on for about 100 years here, and it was between the Draco and the anti-Draco, because remember, as above, so is below. Mm-hmm. The Abraxas and somewhat the humans on Earth, and the Pleiadians and the anti-Pleiadians. Now, let's talk about each group a little bit so you can figure out who was fighting. So the Draco on the light side, I guess you would say on this side of the multiverse, were fighting with the Draco on the other side of the multiverse. The Abraxas, well, the anti-humans, the Abraxas, were also fighting with the humans that used to inhabit the galaxy around the star Aldebaran, as we know it. And the Pleiadians, which are humanoids, or were humanoids, there's very few left, but the Pleiadians, or the humanoids, humans 1.0, much taller. They look a lot like the Alcyon humans. humanoids, and the anti-Pleiadians began to fight. So the war lasted quite a long time. There was a lot of damage on Earth. A lot of the inhabitants of Earth went underground. That's how we have inner Earth and the worlds that were inside Earth and still are to this day, where the different species went that were here at the time. But by the end of the war, which is exactly 250,000 years ago today, the groups agreed to split the ownership of Earth of the anti-Draco. So we have Enki, Enlil, and Marduk, anti. And we have the Abraxas and the Red Queen. So they split the Earth 5 ways. But not only was the Earth at stake, it was also the Aldebaran star system and galaxy as well. The Tegedia in the Pleiades star. And that's how they had the invasion of the Tegethians, which were not originally evil. We also have, those are the humanoids, by the way. The original humanoids came from that star system that fought here. Alpha Draconis, that's kind of a given. That's the Draconian galaxy. Through the Orion Nebula, the Red Queen also brought in her reptiles. We know the evil reptilians that also destroyed Mars. And also through Proxima Centauri. So there were several different star systems that were at stake for ownership as part of the end of this war. Now, interesting little fact. So the end of the war was officially at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time last night.
It's interesting, Central Standard Time.
I know. Well, for whatever reason, it was what it was, I guess. But there is a little bit more to that, because by today at 11:59 a.m. Central Standard Time in the Ozarks, the official seal was placed on Earth. Now,
yeah, what's the seal?
The official seal looks, it looks almost like a black goo sun. It was underground. The base point for it was the Tom Sauk Mountain in Missouri, spelled Taum space Sauk. And then it branched out throughout the entire Ozark region of the United States. So you can look up where the Ozarks are if you don't know where they are. Missouri, tiny part of Kansas, Alabama. It's a fairly sizable region of the country. So that was the official seal, which then connected to a gateway in 0 Point Earth, which then connected to all of the star systems we talked about, which then allowed for a direct gateway between the lower astral beings that won the war and all of those galaxies. And this is how we ended up with the permeation through the 5th density. Yeah, this is how it all started. And today, it officially all ended. So even though the covenant expired early and it allowed us to clean up a lot, it didn't necessarily end all of the space junk and the permeation officially until today. So,
was that a lot of stuff that still needed to be dealt with?
It was just officially we were able to remove the seal. And we're going to go back to also, so we've been cleaning all morning for sure. But while the deep state actually sits there staring at screens and hoping for a signal from somewhere, well, there's something to it. So we'll continue on here to talk about the effects this had on humans. So, and how it ties to the upcoming solar eclipse. So that's pretty much today. That's what ended today. It is also what, I guess you would say, began today a long time ago. So shortly thereafter, there was an eclipse that took place around 24 days or so after the sealing of the agreement, which is very similar to what's happening this year. And this is why they're all excited about their situation. And I was discussing this with a friend of mine. Do you remember when we were kids, Sonny, and there was a solar eclipse or a lunar eclipse, and we would make these makeshift boxes and whatever else to watch the eclipse, and it was a cool experience. But never before did we really have, stock up on food, we're all going to die, days of darkness, all of these types of things. Well, they're putting out the fear based on what happened next. So at that time, 250,000 years ago, during the solar eclipse that followed, there was actually 3 days of darkness as the gateways were installed in the sun and, the permeation started happening. So there was some truth to what their belief system, but remember, they're going off knowledge. Old knowledge and not wisdom. Times have changed. So there also was a human genocide event that took place. And I would say we went from around 8 billion or so humans on Earth at the time, down to about 500 million humans.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's kind of what the Georgia Guidestones indicated, right?
Well, and it served as a reminder too, and a threat.
Yeah.
So if the humans ever went against the covenant, then, that would be a threat. That was basically something looming over everybody's head, to stay in line. So that's when the first time humans became completely and totally enslaved. Mm-hmm. And we were slaves ever since. The other thing that happened after the signing of the agreement on this day is that the 5 different parties that owned Earth began interbreeding with the 5 tribes of Earth, which then created what we now know today as the Illuminati, the Order, the Deep State, the SSP, the Black Nobility, the Abraxas lines, and this began the Merovingian lines on Earth. So those are the people that we're still painfully dealing with, let's just say dealing with, ever since. But since that covenant is no longer in place and their respective aliens didn't come back today, they're still kind of in stunned mode because at the time of this recording, it's only been about 20 to 30 minutes since the event did not happen that they were expecting. So I don't know what they're going to do from here on out. But no one is coming back, I can assure you of that, mainly because none of these species actually exist anymore. No one is going to try to reclaim Earth except for Source, in which the declaration was already filed. Source now owns Earth. I still am guardian. And the new agreement actually lists me as guardian. And it lists all my names. It's the long list. All the names I've had.
Names. Oh, you mean names like from previous lifetimes?
Yeah.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, list all my names going all the way back to the beginning of all the times I've been here. So, so I'm sure they got that information by now. I'm sure this is making them very unhappy. But I think what they were expecting, now this is just a guess based on chatter, because I've heard a lot of talk about a lot of potential planes going down. They're talking about different things that could possibly have happened. Now, are these things they were planning on doing? I know that they were expecting some orders on what to do now that that covenant expired. Possibly if the 5 groups, because they were expecting all 5 to come back and either continue the current ownership of Earth is what they were thinking. If they couldn't agree, would there be another alien invasion or a war? These are discussions that they're having amongst themselves. And meanwhile, we're sitting over here on our side going, what are you talking about? That was last year. No one came, no one fought, no one argued. But there was some, like I said, the seal was still here, binding Earth itself to the 5 different groups throughout all timelines.
Was that actually, Kim, a visual seal? Could people actually see that, or is this etherical?
No, it's not something you could see. It is underground. It was underground. So yes, if you knew where to go in the Ozarks, you could actually see it. It was fairly large. Could they see it by using a satellite? Possibly, because they have satellites now that can go down to 5 kilometers. Okay. It was predominantly made of large amounts in an interesting shape, black goo, with a large timeline crystal, very large. And they would have been able to see a transmission coming from here, going to the other star systems and also to the lower astral. So if it was like the SSP and they had that kind of equipment, possibly DARPA, possibly NORAD could have seen a signal coming from there, which is no longer there.
Okay.
So now they don't know what to do because their masters, so to speak, didn't come back.
I've never seen someone so eager to have masters. Do you know what I mean? It's like they view it as a good thing. I'm like, why would you want someone over you to manage you like that? And to, it's like they're okay with being slaves.
Because they're family. Oh, remember, they're inbreds. They're
lovely.
Yeah, that's family. It's like a family reunion of sorts they were expecting today, apparently, to try to tell them what's next. Yeah. Because that's it.
I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, sooner or later, they'll probably get a copy of the agreement that expired and what replaced it. Nobody hired them to manage the property, lords of the land, so to speak, hence the term Lord Rothschild, Lord this, Lord that, lords of the land. Mm-hmm. So no, that's all that happened, as far as they're concerned at this point. They'll figure it out, maybe. I don't know. But no, they're no longer the lords of the land. Haven't been for actually over a year, but I guess you could say officially today.
Yeah, I don't see them getting rid of their titles, though. They'll still be calling themselves Lord and Lady and whatever.
Yeah, probably.
For a while, yeah.
We call them something else here, and not a word that I can say on the news. But, let's just say I would refer to them with something that rhymes with truckers. Mm. Yeah.
I think I know what you're referring to.
Yeah. I refer to them as the truckers. Yeah. No offense to truckers,
real truckers.
People that drive a truck for a living. No. Transportation specialists. No, right. Not the same.
Right.
So that was the big news for today. So as far as our solar eclipse that we have coming up, I would say you don't have anything to worry about. There is not going to be a genocide event of humans on that day. We are not having any aliens from the lower astral come back and try to renew an agreement. There will not be, mainly because there aren't any.
Not those kind.
There aren't any. So we don't see anybody trying to own Earth at this time. But it also should explain to you why, if you are here or speaking to folks from other locations, why some people have the original remnants of the Pleiadian race, not the anti-Pleiadians. I'm talking about the Pleiadians that now are from like Alcyon and other star systems communicating with you, probably because you are from there.
Yeah.
You might have been from Alcyon because that is also a location that fought in the original war. Okay. It was actually started originally by the Pleiadians fighting against the Red Queen. Mm-hmm. That's how it originally started. You could have been talking. I know there's a lot of people here that talk about the Draco, but most likely if you're talking about the Draco and you're with the Order of the Dragon or have participated in those programs, you are talking about lower astral Draco. You're not talking about the actual Draco. Because I remember even in my conversations after Anu died, and I was having conversations with the Draco Queen, she wasn't real happy with what had happened here.
Yeah, and so.
Yeah. Well, and after Marduk had passed, and Enki and Enlil had passed, that's why she went back to repair her own galaxy. Mm-hmm. That makes more sense to me now than it did then at the time, on why things were so bad there. And it would have been nice in all the conversations I had with all these different groups in the Universal Council, that they, kind of told us what happened. I didn't even find out what really happened here. I knew about the war. I knew about the reptilians. I knew about the name Atlantis, being of a ship that arrived full of reptiles. Yeah. So I don't know, at the time, I guess you could say that humans lived differently. So if people talk about the time of Atlantis, you're talking about a time where we knew how to use crystals. We had a dark age going on. Very true. And it had extended throughout the multiverse for a time. But, another war after we had already been conquered the first time, second time, third time, and then we had other problems again about 16,000 years ago. So, it would have been nice of anyone to fill in the details, but for some reason, no one bothered. They just told me whatever happens here happens everywhere. Well, why? I'm going back probably 5 years. Why didn't the council tell me about it then? Mm-hmm. When I became an ambassador, why did they not tell me? But I guess there's some things you just have to find out on your own, or remember, or get the wisdom like at the right time. It always comes at the right time. Mm-hmm. I never get the information, beforehand for some reason. So that's today's information. Like, why is everybody, I knew that they were up to something yesterday. Way too much chatter, way too much ego in the chatter. They seemed very confident that something exciting was going to happen, and this would allow them to regain control.
So when we say they now, who really is they? Are we mainly talking about SSP?
Yeah, remaining members, there's not that many. Remember, there's just a few. There are some operatives that decided to join back with them. There are the black nobility, is still some of them, the families, I should say, not the heads, but the families are still around. The Silent Circle has taken over them officially, all those families. And they also were waiting for an event to happen today. that didn't happen. So I know, very interesting.
So why Ides of March and Julius Caesar? Is this them just kind of carrying on? You know how it trickles through our history and it shows up in different places, but we're not really sure why.
Well, although the largest event that we have seen in human history, as far as a genocidal event, happened at that time, all those years ago, we still had genocide light, is what I call it, every 2016 years. So it wasn't a complete, wipe out of the population. It wasn't but we definitely had events that occurred in wars, large wars that occurred, not necessarily involving others per se, pandemics, the big flood, the big flood that happened on one of those cycles 16,000 years ago, actually 18,000 years ago, because we as humans were almost completely wiped out during that time when we lost our moon. So we have seen those events in an uptick around every 2016 years or so go on throughout history. You remember about 2,000 years ago, we had Easter, the death of Christ, based on different calendars, several calendars ago. That would put us at about 2016 years ago. So there is a lot of correlation between events that we see in our history, maybe a few years off here and there. The events that happen with, some of the Bible stories we heard about around that time too. I died so you didn't have to. Remember that? Not me per se, but the person we know as Jesus or Yeshua, depending on who you are. In the Bible. So was there going to be another complete or a genocide light during that time? Most likely, for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. When was the last time we had a pretty big one?
The largest one that I know of was the one where that happened 18,000 years ago. That was the largest one that I know of that happened since this war. That was, that was the Great Flood, the real Great Flood. And, there weren't very many humans left walking the earth for sure. Again, there was an event where people had gone underground for safety. And that's when they brought us our fake moon that we have today, about 2,000 years later. So it lasted a long time. That was a long one for sure. Then they started rebreeding, in their likeness, of course, and started the line again, their line again. Is that part of the real reason why, supposedly it was 2 by 2? Is that the reason? I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, I can try to find out, but yeah. But definitely it's been genocide event ever since then, constantly over and over and over again. But no longer.
And what would have been, what's the purpose behind the genocide? Is it to bring our numbers down, to control us better? Is it appeasal for these demon gods?
Well, they need a certain amount of human batteries. Remember that. So there's only a certain amount they actually need here.
Okay.
And when their brood, so to speak, is outnumbered by our kind, is usually when they start a genocide event.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Bring us down.
It's a numbers game.
Yeah, it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
So that's what the deep state is expecting. They're expecting to have this happen again. They were expecting some orders and contracts today based on the new covenant that they didn't get. And now maybe they're, be great if they decided to have some common sense and give up. but I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
Nope. They also were expecting money for it too.
Of course.
Yeah. Club of Rome was putting their hand out this morning at about 10 o'clock this morning, Eastern time, along with the Federal Reserve, trying to re-up their contract. You
mean they were submitting to the Hall of Records?
Of course they were.
Okay.
Still me, guys. Still me. Still me.
Are you still, is there still like a little note or something that says, you realize it's still me, right? Still me.
Yeah, still me. Still me. Yep. Still me. Well, I think that they were expecting it to be somebody else.
Yeah.
I don't think they really understood or actually acknowledged the fact that they have been in a battle. This has actually been a real war. I don't think they even know who they're fighting against.
Mm.
This is humans against humans is what it's down to now. It wasn't in the beginning. We already conquered all the other people.
Yeah.
All the ones that could have possibly come back, and the gateways and the portals and access points and AI system after AI system after AI system. It's taken a lot to get to this point to where we wouldn't have been affected on a day like today.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one coming back because we worked really, really hard to make it happen. And when I say we, yes, okay, it's myself, it's a small team, but you also have Source in there. You also have lots of visitors here that are here for this type of a reason, not necessarily to handle your political issue. They are here to ensure that there was not going to be another war. Probably the same reason why a lot of you are here. If you're watching this, you're probably watching it from a standpoint of, I'm here because of this.
Yeah.
So I would say there's a lot of humans as well that participate, and each in their own way. Mm-hmm. We definitely have a lot of talented people out there that send me messages, all the time. This is what we saw today. And a lot of it's right on to what I was doing today. So, and thank you. And I appreciate those. And I appreciate your help. So if you have been helping in the cleanup, then I just want to say thank you. But yeah, as far as other cleanup events that took place, mainly in the last 48 hours, it was all about any kind of various creator AIs in locations on Earth they were going to. So we were kind of chasing them around the planet, and then we decided to stop doing that, and we just decided to get all the different facilities that they could possibly go to next, that they may or may not have heard about. Back to Antarctica, just lovely place down there. Arctic Circle, Uganda, Mount Gessi, Gessi, yeah. McGuire Mountain in Montana, Midtree in Norway, Midtree, Midtre. So if you're looking for places around the world where bad things were happening, there you go. We were also in Azerbaijan yesterday. We were in Israel. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name of this mountain or hill. It's pretty small. Afghanistan, Angola, Luxembourg. I know that's a big surprise. Rothschild headquarters. Mount Etna, to Mount Kailash again in India. Well, disputed India, let's just say, because it's Tibet. So China would say it's China. India says it's, and then they deployed all those troops recently in the last 24 hours, I think, to the border there. Probably looking for this facility, my guess would be. Or they were looking to see if there was going to be an invasion in the Himalayas. That was a big portal there for the ones that came through the Orion Nebula, one of the largest in the world there. But now they're all kind of standing there. Nothing happened. I guess the humans were going to fight the others. My understanding is the SSP and, of course, the Order of the Black Sun, whatever's left of it, the Black Silent Circle now, I guess, is running that show. And the Order of the Dragon were going to fight on their side. They decided, against the light.
Gosh, I keep making bad decision after bad decision.
Well, again, they're going off of knowledge. They're going off of old knowledge, events, and then they create all this fear online and on social media and TikTok. We're all going to die. Whatever happened to kids putting together little boxes so you could watch the eclipse, whatever happened to that? Nowadays it's like, prep your food, 3 days of darkness. We're all going to die. No, we're not going to die. Nothing is going to happen. You're going to wake up and you're going to see something really cool in the sky. So get your glasses. It's cool. And then that's it. You're going to go about the rest of your day.
Yeah.
That's all that's going to happen. It's terrible what they try to do to manipulate humans. Mm-hmm. We truly are a remarkable race, and I'm kind of partial to humans being one and all, but at least this time, but there's a lot of things I don't say on the news, things that have happened, things that I've seen, things that we've prevented, and I almost feel sometimes that if I did tell you everything, I don't know if we'd crawl into a corner or a closet and not come out, or what would happen. Because if people really only knew what they did to us, right, and we're still here.
Yeah.
The stuff you see on alt media, the stuff they spray in the skies and stuff, that's nothing compared to what these folks have done to us throughout the years. Genetic manipulations, creations of diseases in the first place. And it isn't, yes, we still had the Nazi programs running and Project Paperclip and all of that, but they've been doing this for thousands of years. This is not the first time. And this is not the first genocide we've ever been through as human beings. But hopefully we'll never have another one. I don't see anything happening in the next 30 days that is beyond what the normal, folks are trying to do. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty sure we'll be okay, but you should be proud of yourselves and, pat yourselves on the back. We made it. We made it through to the end of the covenant. We have not all died. Yes, we've had some rough times in the last couple of years, and, as they were prepping for their big event. But, there's a quote that, if it's okay with you, I'll read. It's not my quote, but it came up recently for me, and I'm like, this is so true. Okay. When we forgive, we reclaim the power to create. We can create a new relationship with the person who has hurt us or not. We can create a new story of ourselves. When we find the strength to forgive, we are no longer victims. We are survivors. And this kind of goes along with the knowledge and wisdom we've been talking about, the narcissists, all of these people. And it can also relate on a much larger scale to the deep state, why they do what they do. I'm not saying you need to invite them over for dinner or anything like that. But remember, holding on to dark thoughts about people, holding on to anger, anger about governments and elections and all the things that people argue about all the time. It only creates a situation within yourself in which it's harder to create.
Yeah.
I can look back at all these stories and look at the carnage and all the things that have happened to us over the years or happen here on Earth, and not just us as humans, but others as well throughout the multiverse, and say, well, this was terrible. This was a tragedy. This was, but I'm really looking forward to creating.
Yeah.
I don't see myself sitting down with any of those people anytime soon and having a coffee. No, not at all. But, you just got to let it go. Prevent them from creating more damage and let it go. And they too need to let it go because they're not going anywhere.
I also think learning from this is important too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's important for us to have the information, I think, so we don't let this kind of thing happen again. We have to remember.
Yep.
That's part of it too.
Yeah. And it is important for us to remember the fight and the battle. I mean, as a young kid, probably about, maybe about 13, 14 years old, I used to have a reoccurring dream. And in the dream, I was fighting against people that didn't look like people in black suits with very white, pale skin. And in my childhood, I thought, or I should say, I would have thought of them as vampires, like your classic movie vampires. And that's where I classified these people in my mind.
Okay.
But in the battles I would have against these people, which it happened over and over and over again, and now it makes more sense to me, I would fight these people with crystals. Meaning I would have crystals in my hands and I would use them almost like swords. And not from the standpoint that I would cut them with crystals. And they were pretty large. They were probably about a foot long. And it would shoot light through the crystal at the beings. Oh. And that's how it would kill the beings.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time where I was a lot lighter. And so the being looked tremendously dark to me that I was fighting. And there were a number of them. And I just remember it being a war. I mean, there was a lot of them and there was a long war. So it makes sense to me when I heard all the story today, from started with source. But when I heard the story today about all the different things that have happened, that happened at that time, it made sense. So apparently I showed up here at that time too. I'm like, oh, that's what that reoccurring dream was. It really wasn't a dream. It really happened. Going back to that time and fighting the battles. And, if you've ever had dreams like that or dreams of Atlantis or visions or things, at that time, it's no surprise that you're probably an adrenaline junkie like me and decided to show up just in case it happened again. 250,000 years later,
You are.
why not?
Why not? Just in case.
Why not? Exactly. But it's a good time to be here for restoration, and moving forward with the full restoration of the planet. And I know everybody's looking forward to it. And so am I. I'm looking forward to the day where we can just forgive and forget and just create.
Yeah.
And just be the creators we really are. So, and that includes all of you. So that's about it for Wednesday's news. That's a lot of news. That's a little history and a little news.
I know, and everyone loves the history, so I'm glad we can leave it on a good note like that, because we've just been fed so many lies. We're anxious to know what really happened and what led us here. So it's good.
Well, and we're still being fed those lies based on old knowledge. Times have changed. Things have changed. Covenants expired a year ago. I don't know why you didn't figure that out then. Because they want to continue to go off the old knowledge.
Yeah.
That they think is secret, hidden, special knowledge. but it's really not.
A cult, hidden knowledge. Yeah.
Well, exactly. Them and their hidden knowledge, and us and our wisdom.
Yeah.
So don't buy into the fear. That's all I'm saying. But enjoy the, solar eclipse. It's kind of cool.
What day is that supposed to happen?
It's April 8th.
April 8th. Okay.
Yes. And so I'm mentioning it now, almost a full month ahead of time, because the rhetoric out there is getting bad, really bad. We're all going to die. We're in their world, we're all going to die of something, but it just proves who owns the alt media to you.
I know. I don't even pay attention to them anymore. I don't check out any of that stuff because it's just the same stuff over and over again.
It just feels bad. Guys. I'd rather go create something.
Yeah.
I'm in my spare whatever time that is, 5-7 minutes a day. No, it's not that bad. It's, I do have a little bit of time, but I've been really working with the oils. I've got them all here now. So I'm from many different places in the world, from Egypt to South Africa to, so I'm excited about that. I've been creating new blends and healing things and, been working on that, listening to some music at night, when I'm done with the rest of the stuff, unless it's a long day, which happens once in a while.
Sounds like a little lab. You got a little lab going on.
I do. I do
think you do belong in a lab. I think when all this is over, that's probably that kind of stuff that you're going to do. You're going to create, and that's what I see.
And that's what I've always wanted to do. For a while there, I got so sick and tired of talking to the deep state folks and people going around in a circle. I thought a yurt in Siberia would be nice for a lab. Just drop me off in a helicopter and supplies every 3 months and I'm good to go. I've thought about that. I thought about that a lot, a lot. Like a lot, because nobody wants to go there. It's too cold, It's not like if they drop me off on a tropical island, I'll still have people show up. So I figure if I just go live in frigid, non-human cold temperatures in a nice little yurt, no one's going to bother me.
Yurt.
Yeah. They make nice yurts.
I'm sure.
They do.
I have a personal experience with that, but I'm sure.
Yeah. And they're warm too.
Okay.
They can be warm. I'll be fine. But turns out, maybe Source has a different plan. But that's okay. Anyway, yes, I do want to work in a lab, to answer your question. I want to create all day. That's all I want to do. Yeah. I want everybody to leave me alone and create. So I'm excited about, I'm having a lot of fun working with them and, testing out different things and different, roll-ons, different blends. I've been experimenting with the use of oils on the feet, which is something that we at UNN have not talked about before. And the combination of oils with reflexology as well to affect the different organs of the body and how to heal the different organs of the body with using oils on your feet. So yeah, I'm having fun.
Good.
I'm having a lot of fun.
Good. Yay.
I know. Well, I guess have a lovely weekend, Miss Sunny.
Yes, you too. You too.
And I will see you on Monday.
Sounds good. Thanks, Kim. Want to share news from UNN?